Hey guys, Dave here. Spent a lot of time getting the unit testing stuff up and running. Thought putting together a little video on some of my thoughts and experiences with running tests and maybe some ideas sort of about TDD. I thought putting together a video would be the best way to do that. So let's just go ahead and dive in here. So I'll start sort of from scratch here. I'm on a late dev branch um, since we've got the Webpack changes implemented. So once you guys have pulled that, you can sort of use this video to follow along. Um, if you see me commit any sort of atrocities, please let me know, and maybe you'll see some tricks that are worth picking up from the stuff I'm doing. Um, so yeah, so let's just I sort of came up with a mock story here that I wanted um, to use as for this video. So let's take a look here. Let's pretend that this is our story. We've got the requirements of creating an employee info card widget that should display the employee's first name, the employee's last name, and the employee's magical employee score. So the first thing that I would do going into this, if we're doing TDD, is we're going to start off creating a module. I'm going to use the Angular command line tool for that just because it makes some things pretty easy. So let's just go ahead and call this the employee card module. And that went and created our little module here. Oh, did I place it in the wrong spot? I did. But we can move it. So if we move this into smart reporting. Okay. So we've got our little module here. The first thing we're going to do with sort of this TDD concept, as far as I understand TDD, is I would go ahead and create a test before I write any code. And there's some, with this story, there's sort of some implied stuff here. We first need to probably create some sort of model object to represent an employee. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with some tests for my employee model object. So in order to do that, I'm just going to create a new TypeScript file. I'm going to call it employee.model.spec. And this is really important. Make sure you have this spec part in here. Oh, you guys can't see that window. That's lame. So I'll just keep going here. So here's the file name here or up at the top. It's really important that this .spec comes before the .ts. That's what the test runner looks for when determining what tests to run. So all of our test files are going to have that .spec in there. So if I go ahead and start writing a test here, there's a whole bunch of documentation out on the Angular website, which I think is going to cover way more than what I cover here. And I'm going to kind of assume that some people have started to take a look at that. So I'll sort of skip over some of the boilerplate type stuff and just get right into it. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to describe my test. And we're going to be testing the employee class that I will write. Since we're doing TDD, we're going to write our test first. And then this is sort of the way that tests are written. So I'm going to create a constant that represents the first name for an employee. Let's just call him Panda. And I'll create another constant for the last name. We'll call him Face, Panda Face. And then we'll do a magical score. We'll give him a magical score of 101. I'm going to create some sort of field, employee for the actual employee object once it gets instantiated. And then I'm going to actually write our tests here. So the first test is it being the employee should be instantiable. And this is now the content of that test that I'm writing here. We're going to instantiate or attempt to instantiate an employee. Now I haven't actually written the class for employee yet, so we expect to see some red text here. Um, I'm writing the test in such a way that I'm assuming that our employee object is going to have a constructor that expects a first name, last name, and the magical score. What's wrong here? Got some sort of formatting issue for getting an arrow. There we go. Okay. Let me just fix a couple lint issues here. All right, so this is red because we haven't actually written our employee class yet, but that's fine. The other thing is we've got some implied things that we probably want to check for here. So we should, the employee should allow its fields to be assignable and visible. And let's write the actual body of that test. So we're going to expect that our employee dot first name, it's going to have a field first name, and we're going to expect it to equal, because I'm assigning it in the previous test, we're going to expect it to equal the first name here in this file. And I actually forgot the condition in this test. Let's add that in really quick. That's really important. After we instantiate our employee, we're expecting the employee instance to be truthy, which is the JavaScript way of just checking to make sure that the class was instantiated. So we'll keep going down with this next test. We can add multiple expects to the same test. There's probably a better way to do this test, but this is the way I'm going to do it for now. We're going to expect the last name to equal the last name, and we're going to expect the magical, oh come on, magical score to equal the magical score. Okay, so I'll just at a high level sort of talk over this one last time here. So we've described a test for our, what we're going to call our employee object, model object. It consists of two specific tests. One is that we should be able to instantiate an employee object, and the second one is that the employee object, once instantiated, has the variables that we've created here assigned to its first name, last name, and its magical score. So we'll go ahead and actually try running this test. Let me open up a new terminal. We expect this to fail, but I'm sort of going through this just to go through the TDD paradigm where you write the test first, you expect it to fail at first, and then you actually start writing the code that makes the tests pass. So in order to test, you type npm test, and this is going to build just like when you do npm run with our application. Now it's important to note here that while this guy starts building, and this takes a heck of a long time, you can also, while you're testing, do npm start. So you can run the application in parallel with the test runner. And this is really useful when you start writing some code for real, because then you can look at whatever you're writing as it appears in the actual application while also making sure that the tests continue to pass. So both of these guys are going to take a little while to build. I'm going to rename these tabs so we can keep track of what's going on here. So this is my view tests. And you're just seeing some of my workflow here. Some of my stuff may be different or wrong than what you guys do, but that's cool. And then this will be for the actual view, or what I'm calling the app. Maybe it's better to call this app. And then call this guy app. Now, obviously, the app itself won't run unless we also get the rest of our stuff running. So we need our API up and running. So that's our resource server seed. And we're going to npm start that bad boy. And then we also need our proxy. Okay, so let's go check and see. Our tests are still building here. It's stuck on this 92% chunk asset optimization. This always seems to take a long time on my computer. I don't know why. If it takes a long time for you guys, or if it doesn't, and it's just me, let me know, because I would like to fix that. And then this is the actual app itself. It is also in the same step. So we're just going to have to wait here for a second. All right, great. So you notice that our test failed to compile, and this is because it cannot find employee right here. So great. So our first tests have totally failed because there is no actual employee class to instantiate. So let's go ahead, or actually let me pause really quick. So notice that the web app did actually run though, because we've only written a test and the test doesn't get compiled as part of the actual application. Our API is running, our proxy is running. So if we actually open up our web app here, there we go. So this is a little embedded view of the web application. We can see that it's actually up and running. So great, so that's running. Now we just need to get our tests running. So let's go ahead and actually create our employee class. So next step here, we're going to create a new TypeScript file. We're going to call it employee, maybe model.ts. And let's just go ahead and build this guy out. So we're going to export a new class called employee. And let's go and define that. He's going to have a first name field, which is going to be a string. We're going to have a last name, which is going to be a string. And we're going to have magical score, which is a number. And then let's go ahead and make that constructor, because if we go and look at my test here, remember that it expects a first name, last name, and magical score in its constructor. So let's just go ahead and create that constructor so that test passed. So first name, last name, a string, magical score, a number, and then we'll just go this dot first. Great. So there is our employee class. If we go and look at the spec, we still got red text here because we have not imported our employee yet. So let's just go ahead and import employee. Let's see if this auto completes. No, it doesn't. Okay. From dot slash employee model. Boom. All right, so now we've got no red text here. If we go and look at our console here, we'll notice that our test has automatically detected changes, and so it is rebuilding. Unfortunately, this is going to take just a little bit here, so we'll just stare at the screen for a little bit. Okay, all right, so we're still getting an issue here. Let me actually show you guys Karma. So if I pull that up, so here's our actual Karma down in the lower right corner. You can see we've got both tests are still failing. This is because employee is not defined. And I think this is probably because wonder if I need to rebuild the tests from scratch, but it might be because we're not declaring it here, but I don't think so. Let's just try this really quick. Okay, that was it. So we hadn't included employee in our declarations for the actual module, which makes sense. So you'll notice in Karma now that both of our tests are passing. So great. So we've used TDD in order to define what we expect from our employee object, and we wrote the test first, and they're both passing, which is great. So now we can move on to the actual story requirements. So if I pop those up again just really quick, we need to create an employee info card widget that should display the employee's first name, last name, and their magical employee score. So now we get on to the actual Angular stuff, which is more interesting than just testing a simple class. So next step here, let's use the Angular CLI in order to make a component. Unfortunately, some of these pop-up windows aren't showing up for you guys, so I apologize. So let's see, let's call it employee card component. And I'm going to be a little sloppy here so you guys can see it auto-generated some stuff for us. I'm going to just delete the CSS file. We're not going to use it. I know where the usage is, so we'll fix that here in a second. And then I'm going to actually move these up to the upper level. So just to keep the structure the way I want it. And then we need to get rid of this because I deleted that CSS file. So let's just get rid of that from the style URLs. So this code should be buildable. And we should be able to test that if we go back to our terminal here. We are able to see that the app was able to compile without any errors. So, okay, so going back, keeping an eye on the test because that's what we really care about. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. You'll notice that when you use the Angular CLI, it creates automatically a spec file. So if we go and take a look at that, it creates a spec file that does some pretty basic stuff. Again, you'll get a lot more details if you read the documentation, which I will share with everyone after this. But basically all this is doing is it is creating a test that creates a test bed for the component. It creates an instance of the component. It implements change detection on it, and then it makes sure that the component is actually created. So pretty basic. So now we can actually move forward with the stuff that we want to do. So if we go ahead and start writing our tests, we need to do we need to be able to see the first name, put that on display inside of a MD card, or inside of a card as all the requirements were. So let's see here, how do we want to do this? So we're going to need to create sort of a test employee for our component here. So we're going to do that right here. We're going to instantiate an employee object. Maybe this is something that a service would provide to our widget in the future, but we're not actually we don't actually want to be using services in our tests. Services should be tested totally differently and replaced with stubs and things like that. So let me just create a fake sort of guy here, Big Panda, and his score is 42 this time. Let's see, did we actually get the import there? We did. Fix some lint. So the other thing we need to do is we need to be able to look. So this will become a little bit easier for all of us as we actually start getting used to writing these unit tests. But if I'm doing it from a TDD perspective, I know that I'm going to have some sort of an HTML template that I will probably put the first name into its own span with a class. Maybe that's called first-name or something like that. So what we want this test to do is when the component is actually created, we want it to go out and look for an HTML element with a class of first name, and then check to make sure that the text content inside of that span is actually that of this test employee right here. So we would expect first name to be equal to big. So the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to create a first name container, and it's going to be an HTML element. And if we go down here, again, all this stuff, some of these details are covered in the documentation, which goes into it in much better detail than I can go into it. So just sort of glossing over a little bit here, what we need to do is we actually need to get a reference to that tag, or we need to parse the HTML and look for that tag. So the way that the documentation recommends doing that is we're going to take the component. Well, first we need to set the component's employee equal to the employee here in our test. So that's that guy right there. Now we need to get that HTML element. So let's just first name container. That's going to be equal to. This is how you get these things. So I don't know too much about it. I'm just sort of following along from what I learned from the documentation here. So we're going to need by that guy right there. Should be the right import. CSS, and we're going to look for a span dot first name. Now remember, this is TDD. I haven't actually written any of this stuff yet. So, and then you say native element, and that's how you would get the actual span with the class first name. So there we go. We've created a reference to that HTML element, and we've made it available up there. And now let's just write a test to actually make sure that the text content of that element is equal to whatever we put right there. So the way that test would look is maybe we'll say the employee card component should display the input employee's first name. And then if we go ahead and write the body of that test, the way that we would test this is we're going to expect that the first name container text content to equal the employee that we've created in this class to equal his first name. So that's that should be building here. We should be able to see in Karma once this updates. We would expect this test to fail for multiple reasons. One is that the component actually has no employee field yet. Oops. So that's going to be the first thing that fails, and then additionally this specific test would fail itself. So give it just a second here. Oh my gosh, take forever. Great. So if we're looking over in Karma, there were 4 tests and 2 failures. The failures were in the employee card component. We noticed that it was not created, and we noticed that it also couldn't display the input employee's first name. So that's as expected. Now let's go and write the code to actually make these tests pass. So first of all, if we go and look at our actual component, we need to add an input in for an employee. So let's go ahead. First, we'll need to get the import for input. We're going to create an input right here. We'll call it employee because it needs to match what's in the test. And this is going to be an employee object, and that should add there. Great. Fix some lint. All right, so now the component has an employee input. So that should, if we go back and look at the test, there we go, our red text went away. So that's good. We can actually assign to that input now. So now let's actually go ahead and start writing a little bit of the actual template code to render stuff. So we said we needed a card. So let's go ahead and do MD card. Not auto completing. Okay, we need to add some imports for that first. So if I go back to the module here, we need, let's see if we can do this. Material design. Great. Fix that lint. Go back to the template. Now we should have that MD card. Great. And then let's go in the MD card title and let's give it that span I was talking about. This is just the way I would do it. Obviously, there's plenty of other ways we could be doing this. First name, and inside of that first name component, we're going to render the employee dot first name. Get rid of that space. So great. So now we have an MD card. Inside of that, there's a title, then there's a span, and inside of that span, we're going to render the employee's first name. So that should be everything to make that test pass, I think, unless I'm forgetting something. So let's just go ahead and see what happens here. I just saved. We're noticing that it's rebuilding automatically. I didn't have to do anything because it's still running. Unfortunately, it takes a while. All right, so we still got a failure. What did Dave forget? Oh, so we need to actually have angular material here as well as the issue. And so the way to do this is we'll need an input or an import up here. The material design module, and fix those really quick. All right, I think that should fix that. I think both of these tests should be successful now. Oh my god, this takes so long. So if someone wants to look into how to make this not take forever, that would be great. No, that's a strange error. Am I not on the right branch? I think I need to actually hard restart the npm test. Okay. So I don't know why Angular needs to do this from time to time, I've noticed, but you just need to, or at least I do. If someone has any insights on what's going on there and why I needed to completely restart it, let me know. But so I just restarted, or I reran npm test, and that fixed whatever that last error was because we expected those tests to pass. And you'll notice now over there in the web browser that the employee card component tests that we have written are passing. So we are displaying the employee's first name inside of that span tag. And then if you actually look in the Karma window there, you can see the card down below that says big. And that says big because that's our employee's first name. And you'll notice it's inside of that MD card. So it is in fact passing that test. So if we just continue on with the TDD paradigm here, this should be pretty straightforward. We also need to make sure that the last name and the magical score are also being rendered. So same thing, we need to just go and get those actual HTML elements. Oh my. And last name, and we'll call this one magical score. And let's go ahead and write a couple more tests. Should display the employee's last name, should display the employee's magical score. And this is last name container, and this should equal the employee's last name. And first name container, this should actually be magical score. And this should equal the employee's magical score. Let's format. All right, so we've got the last two tests here. So this is complaining that I'm comparing the text content, which would be a string, to an actual number. So a pretty kludgy workaround would be just to go like that. And we would expect these two to fail again with the whole TDD paradigm because I haven't actually written the elements to render those things yet. So we could just sit here and wait for this, but because I think we all know what's going to happen, I'll just add that stuff in here. So we'll just go span class equals last name and get the employee last name. And then down in the MD card content, let's just say magic score. And this is the employee magical score. All right, so format that, we'll save it. And we're going to start rebuilding now again. And when this is done, I would expect the tests, all of the tests, to pass, thus completing our requirements for the story. All right, there we go. Oh no. What did I mess up? Do. First name, last name, magical score. So what I'm noticing is that 4 tests are failing. You could actually open up your browser and actually debug the tests, which would be a good way to do this. I'm noticing that all 4 tests are failing, which means there's probably something in this before each that's wrong. So we got span first name, span last name, span magical score. Did I misname something over here? First name, last name. Oh, yeah, right. We need to put that inside of a span. So there's no magical score HTML element. So all of the tests are complaining. Oh my goodness. Okay, sweet. This should work. This video is going to be about 10 minutes longer than it needs to be because we're waiting for Webpack to compile, or chunk asset optimization. If I was nice, I'd go back and edit all of this out, but I'm not nice, so. Yay, all the tests pass. Great. All right. I hope this is useful to some people. Again, if you notice anything that I was doing that was just egregious, please let me know. Maybe you picked up some tricks on the way that I do stuff. If anyone has any ideas how to make the chunk asset optimization faster, or any ideas why it might be running so slow on my end, that would be great. Otherwise, when I post this video, I'll try and post a link to the Angular documentation on testing, which I really recommend everyone reads. It's going to describe in a lot more detail a lot of the concepts behind how you unit test Angular apps, and I've got a ton of stuff that I still need to learn there. So I think we're all just going to have to learn that together and work through it and look at each other's pull requests and comment on any of the tests that we start developing. So I don't know about you guys, I'm really pumped that we've got testing working now. So cool. All right. See you guys in stand up.